There's
just
a
now.
new episode. Yeah. How many podcasts do you subscribe to there, Greg?
Subscribe to? Probably
Yeah.
about 6.
Do you listen to a lot of
about half of one.
regularly? You listen to really 3 then.
I don't listen to any.
You don't listen to any.
I don't
You
have a commute
subscribe to
anymore.
6.
Now that I'm
That's a
getting
good
into
point.
going out for like a walk pretty frequently, I am starting to listen to them again.
Okay.
But normally I stick to like the F1 podcasts. So
Are
the
you
video game
into
podcasts
racing?
suck. Nobody does them right, including
That's
us. Sorry.
People can freely
Sorry to be. Listen, I'm going to say
talk
sorry for
racing.
insulting you, but really, I'm just sorry for being the voice of truth.
You're supposed to say hot take and then
All right, sorry.
give your opinion.
No, hot
So
take
they-
is a video, though, right? I need to do a video. That's
Mm.
Well, hot takes can be spoken.
no,
or
but I
written.
feel like I'd make more money if it was a negative YouTube video. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, well,
Oh.
Yeah. Look at the camera.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize this was a profit gig.
I still have to do my response video to your top 100. I'm sorry that I haven't yet.
But that would require you watching the top 100 video, wouldn't it?
Oh,
I don't
enjoyed
need
that.
to watch it. I can just do the response video
Hey,
without
Luke?
watching it.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome, man. I enjoyed that video. That was a good video.
You know what? And I appreciate you taking the time. I have people who I consider my best friends who haven't taken the time to watch that video yet.
I mean, when you think about it, Greg, it's not like we have 14 years of podcasting friendship
Right?
behind us, and I still wanted to be there for you.
Thank
know?
you. And not to mention,
There you go.
10 years of work friendship before that.
yeah.
Man.
Not 10 years. No.
Well,
no.
but we knew each
More
other
like
online.
5.
We were internet friends for a while.
That's true. We were internet.
More like 5. Yeah, that's the difference. Yeah. So instead of 25 years, it's been 21 years. That's fine.
I watched it and I don't particularly care for.
See? Exactly. Luke barely knows who I am. Phil
So-
doesn't even like me. They
No.
both watched it.
There you go.
CJ
Greg-
came to my wedding.
Greg.
I did.
I went to CJ's wedding.
I don't like you,
Yeah.
Greg, but I enjoy your work.
See, and you know what? I can live with that.
There we go. See?
Oh God.
All right.
My favorite part, just to prove I've watched it, my favorite part of the video was learning that there was a Knight's winter theme on the Sega.
Yeah,
I
Christmas
was like,
night.
yeah, I never heard of that. I was
Wait, you
There
never
you
heard
go.
of Christmas Nights?
never had.
Phil, Christmas Nights is like 25 years old.
I know.
No, but you know what?
On a
And it was
system
a
nobody
free-
owned.
And
Demo
I'm-
disc for a magazine.
Yeah.
I'm what? Like
Luke doesn't know what magazines
7
are.
7 years
No,
older than
I
that?
had y'all's magazine when y'all wrote them.
Oh my. So old.
So old. All right, let's do this thing. Hello and welcome to episode 770 of the Player One podcast for Tuesday, August 10th, 2021. I'm your host, Chris Johnston, and with me, as always, from Canada is Mr. Greg Stewart.
Hello.
How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. Spent the evening with the kid in the emergency room, but he's all right.
Okay.
You can see his feet on the couch behind me there. The ice
Yep.
pack. He's
They're-
wiggling his toes.
He
to show
waved.
His leg still works. He
That's
waved with
all
his
that's
toes.
left.
Yep, that's it.
That's all that's left.
That's all they would let me
Yeah.
bring home.
That's what your free Canadian medicine.
That's
gets
right.
ya.
That's
Yeah.
what free. They take off the broken parts and they just leave you with what's left.
There you go.
Your poor child took quite a
But it didn't
tumble.
cost me anything. So
Well, then you're safe.
Yes. And joining me from the great state of Washington, Mr. Phil Theobald.
How's it going?
Nice Pac-Man shirt, sir.
Hey, thanks. I wore it just for you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
You
should be a
goober.
Super Pac-Man shirt, shouldn't it?
Well, yeah.
Should
Well,
be.
I know he's Mr. Super Pac himself, but I always thought that
Namco
was-
doesn't recognize
a political
Super
thing.
Pac-Man. Right?
No.
I don't know. Yeah, they do.
I think they
I'm
do.
glad.
It was
I'm
on
glad,
Namco Museum.
I'm glad your
collections, right?
son's okay, Greg.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
Phil,
Yeah.
I too
has
am glad
watched
that your
my
son
top
is
100
okay.
video. Also,
this
the
guy.
first one of my co-hosts to offer,
Mhm.
congratulations that my son's
Yeah.
okay.
And then CJ is like, "Oh yeah, me.
Oh yeah,
too,
right, me too. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Kids are important, I guess.
Glad to hear he's fine.
Good to hear. Yes.
I didn't realize you had a son. It's good to
And
know
as
that
we were
he's
discussing before the show, Phil doesn't even like me that much.
not even
true.
a little.
No.
So
Well, hey, we have a special guest this week as
and it's-
well.
is it me?
No, it is not you.
Not for 12 years now.
From the Xbox Expansion Pass podcast, it's Mr. Luke Lore.
Gentlemen,
Luke.
hello.
Luke.
Hello. What a pleasure to be back with you guys. I've not stopped laughing in the last 10 minutes. Yeah.
Laughing at us, though. Really?
No,
That's
no.
No.
Yeah.
No, come now.
We
come now.
understand.
How many episodes has this podcast gone? Too many.
Seven-
770 according to the
You
little
just-
image at the bottom of the screen that
Yeah.
you wrote.
Just said that.
You're right. I
770.
did.
Yeah.
I did. How's it going, Luke?
It goes great. It goes great.
Yeah.
My summer vacation has come to a close, so I got to get back to the old lesson planning and getting up early and molding the minds of the youth. So, yeah, it's great, man. What a great way to cap it off. I'm excited. Things are good. Things are good.
Excellent.
I remember lesson plans.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't.
I don't miss
Yep.
lesson plans. Let me tell
No?
you.
I feel like I just talked to you guys, though. Weirdly.
Mhm.
Weirdly.
That's right.
Somehow
We did a special episode of the Xbox expansion pass.
That's
that,
right.
Has not yet hit your feed, but will soon.
It will soon. It will hit soon. I have you
Okay.
pinned for it's a question mark of two different dates right now. I'm so excited for that though. It was a retro episode, so anybody that wants to hear us talk all about retro games, it's basically player 1, 2 that we're looking forward to. Yeah, that was such a blast. I'm so looking forward to that going live. People get to hear it.
Yeah, that was super fun. And everybody listening should go and subscribe to the Xbox expansion pass anyway, because Luke does a great Xbox focused show, but you also cover just the industry in general, and you have a lot of great guests and interviews and stuff. Not just us. We're like on the low ring of your
No,
your
come
guests.
now.
Like,
Come
you have
now.
a lot of really great interviews on that
Speak for
show. So
yourself.
people should check that out. Xbox
Thank you, man.
expansion pass.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
Phil's
should
gone
we
to
get-
listen right now.
He's out. He's out.
Phil has left already. It's only like 5 minutes in. Anyway, let's get into some news. And there really wasn't much last week, so this will be fast. I wanted to bring up two interesting announcements. First of all, Focus Home Interactive has acquired .emu. .emu? Is that what it is?
I always say .emu, but I really don't know how it's
.emu,
supposed to be said.
which is the company that did Streets of Rage 4, and they were involved in the Wonder Boy Dragon's Trap thing as well,
Yes.
right?
I believe
And
so.
they have been acquired by Focus Home. And the interesting bit of this acquisition is a quote in the press release mentioning that this will allow .mu to have the backing to do some of this remaking or sequelization of titles that are from the early days of 3D, like early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you guys is, what early 2000s or like early 3D games would you like to see .mu tackle, either with a sequel or with a sort of Dragon's Trap style like a reimagining?
When you
graphic
say Dragon's
overhaul?
Trap style, what you mean is a reimagining of an existing game, not
Existing
a
game,
2D
right.
version of a 3D game.
That's correct. So like Streets of Rage 4 is a sequel to a franchise.
That's why it has
Right.
a 4 at the end of it.
Yes. Dragon's Trap is just a remake of
Right.
an old game with a new
Right.
look to it.
Right.
Yes.
I
So
need
what do
an
you guys
example of this first. Like, what are you guys thinking? Because I'm still struggling to figure out what he's asking.
Here's a couple examples: Streets of Rage 4
Mm-hmm.
and Dragon's Trap.
Just those two.
Just those two.
Those are
Just those two.
examples.
I mean, I honestly want to see them tackle things like Lunar. I think that would be excellent.
That's not 3D.
Got another. It's not 3D. You're right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm stuck. Is the 3D.
How about this?
Hmm.
Tomba.
Tomba. Oh,
Now,
that's
you know,
a good one.
There would be a great, yes, that is a
Mhm.
wonderful suggestion,
You're welcome.
because that's one of those, even though that's not early 2000s, but
Yeah.
that's one of those
Yeah.
great PlayStation era platformers that
Yeah.
almost nobody remembers.
Yes.
And even
Right.
when it was new, I don't think it was super popular. Like, I don't think a lot of people played it.
I was
And there were two of them,
stunned
right?
we got a
Even though it was
second one out
Sony
of it.
first party.
Yeah.
Sony first party released that.
But yeah, that is a great suggestion.
Was that Whoopee
yeah.
Camp?
Whoopee
the
Camp.
developers? Yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's a
I
good
think one of the Whoopee Camp guys was involved in that Ghouls and Ghosts
Yeah.
remake
Oh, yeah,
very
yeah.
recently. The Capcom did,
But we still like Tomba, right?
but we still like Tomba. Yeah, of course. Yeah. What about like Jumping Flash?
Oh man,
If we're
I do
gonna
love
go,
Jumping Flash. I do love Jumping Flash. I'd be all over.
or Omega Boost. You remember Omega Boost, which is that
Yeah, the game that Polyphony made before they made Gran Turismo.
not
Or was it
before. I
after?
thought it was
Was it after?
after the first
that
one.
It was back when they
Polyphony?
were still called Polis Entertainment, wasn't it? Or
No, they
maybe
were
that was the
Polyphony
first one they
Digital.
released under Polyphony.
It was Polyp Entertainment.
Polyp Entertainment.
Our games
Or-
will grow on you.
Beetle Adventure Racing. Nobody
Oh.
tackled that. I mean,
Have they said
that's-
anything about? I mean, obviously, we're talking about things that they would have to license, though.
They would, yeah. And part of that is that having Focus Home behind them, they could actually have the
Hmm.
brand identity to
Hmm.
start those discussions, right?
I like to see them go more Sega stuff. Do some more Sega stuff.
Yeah.
Get into like the Dreamcast era. Start releasing
Yeah.
some of the games that came out on Dreamcast. You know,
Star Lancer, Mad Dog, I think it was. Those two games I liked a lot for Dreamcast. I'd love to see them come back.
or even like let's get another Jet Grind Radio.
Oh, Jet Grind Radio. Yeah, would you want to see a sequel to that or a remake of the first one?
I like to see a sequel.
Yeah.
Because the first one honestly has control issues that
Hmm.
never get better. So I'd like to see, something rebuilt, but in that style and in that universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
KSO 0514 says they should remake or they should make Sin and Punishment 3. Really, you could do anything with Sin and Punishment. You could do a
remake of the
rebuild
first one would be
of
fantastic.
the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be
Because
pretty
that
cool.
was one that that got released on Virtual Console at one
It
point. didn't
did.
Right.
Yes.
So that was like the only way to play it here without importing the N64 game,
Yeah.
That's right.
I believe.
Yeah.
It's
I did-
funny
I didn't
because
import that.
we've seen Asper Media go after like re-releasing a lot of titles kind of from this era, and I just talked to people at the newly reformed Apogee Entertainment. Do you guys remember them? They did like the first Duke Nukem and stuff like that.
We're wicked old. Yes, we remember Apogee.
Well, they were
wicked old.
but they were gone for a bit, right? And they're
They
just
were.
kind of reformed. And so I
Right.
talked to Scott a few days ago, and so my mind is jumping to those. But when I think back to this question of like older games, like 3D games to make a comeback, a lot of them have already seen rebirth in some way, shape, or form, or are tied up in licenses that I don't think Dotemu, whatever them, Focus Home could really get,
Right. That's
And
why
that's
I'm
kind of
saying, like, it seems like they have a relationship with Sega. I know that they're saying that they could
Yeah.
expand, but it's sort of
Mhm.
that's where my mind tends to go immediately.
Well, what about Banjo Kazooie? Because if Rare doesn't want to do it, and if Playtonic doesn't want to do it,
So Microsoft hires them to do it.
Microsoft could get.
Hmm.
You're
Dot
assuming
MU.
Microsoft wants another
Dude.
Banjo Kazooie?
Why
I think
wouldn't
they have to? I think
Why
they
wouldn't
have
they
to.
want that? Did you see
Do
how
they?
popular
Really?
Banjo Kazooie was in Smash? I mean, come on, like thousands of people bought the amiibo and want a
but-
sequel or new
I don't think
installment.
that means anything, but maybe that's
I-
just me.
Well, I think Microsoft's more likely to put an in-house studio on Banjo.
They just
Because they
spent a
know
lot
they
of money
can.
on a bunch of studios. I don't
It
know
would
that.
be weird having a Banjo Kazooie game potentially be good.
Oh my
Dun,
goodness!
dun,
There he is.
There it is.
Um,
I
What was that No One Lives Forever game that is caught up in
Oh.
rights issues? That,
Oh,
Yes. That would be
That'd be
cool. I remember that people really liking that game a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe this might lead into our next story, but hey, how about Radiant Silvergun?
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I was thinking Blue Stinger from the
Blue
old
Stinger.
Dreamcast days.
God.
Blue
No.
Stinger.
You mean Blue Stinker?
Oh
Such a
yeah.
terrible game.
That was one of those games I tried to convince myself was good, and I was like, I can't do it.
Well, it was a launch game, and it was good
Early-
visually.
Right. I
The
want
translation on that thing is just a pile of
Mm.
It was
garbage.
bad. It was bad. Did you guys ever play Star Lancer on the Dreamcast?
God, yeah. I actually played it on the PC, but yes, I did play the Dreamcast.
I loved that game. CJ's face. He's like, ugh.
If it's a PC game, then what's stopping it from being remade? Then too.
Fair. There's also one called Mad Dog, which played like Star Fox 64, but you were maybe it was Red Dog, but you were on like a quad rover, and you shot like you were on Nintendo 64. Star Fox 64. I loved that game.
So Rover was the dog's name?
No, it was a quad.
It was Rosebud.
It is Red Dog. Superior
Red Dog.
firepower.
Red
Yes,
Dog.
that's it.
Okay, now I remember what you're talking about.
From
Yes.
Crave Entertainment.
Yes.
Yeah, I loved those two games. I'd love to see make a comeback. That's just childhood memories right there. And Red Dog, I thought at the time really looked good. Really looked good.
I remember
at the time.
people liking that. That game got a lot of good press when it came out.
Did it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What was that game that had Bruce Willis in it?
It was one.
There you go.
Didn't that come out around the? I want to say it was around the
PlayStation
same
1.
time as Fifth Element. Weren't both those games like? Didn't he have?
Were
Weren't
they?
there two Bruce Willis games? Very close to one
Apocalypse.
another?
Apocalypse was the other one.
Apocalypse.
That's what I'm
Oh
thinking
wait,
of.
was one Bruce Willis?
I don't think so.
No.
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse
sounds
is what I was thinking.
Apocalypse was the Bruce Willis one. One was
right.
probably similar.
I remember playing.
One might have been the
style.
sequel without Bruce Willis.
I remember playing that Apocalypse game on. It was on one of the demo discs for like PlayStation Underground, and it was one of the first ones to use twin sticks with the dual analogs. So it was a big deal, and then it stopped being a big deal very quickly. Very quickly.
Right.
We moved on from that demo.
I remember that being. I seem to remember that being at the first E3 I went to.
Yeah.
That being one of the big games. Yeah.
I want to be an
that,
Express Junkie where he has to talk about it. I want to hear him talk about it. What it was like to be in a video game. It's just his bald head running around. Remember?
He doesn't remember. He doesn't.
What was
know.
that? What was that game that Die Hard was so enthralled with as the top-down
Die Hard
shooter?
Arcade.
No, the
Die
top-down
Hard
shooter.
trilogy.
Oh, Loaded? You talking about Loaded?
Loaded.
Loaded.
Yeah.
That game was terrible,
Talking
but it was
about
very
Loaded.
popular when it came
It
out.
was, actually.
It was
Super
very
gory,
popular.
and it had all those great lighting effects.
Honestly, I didn't see what people saw in that game.
I just told you what they saw in it.
Yeah.
Great lighting effects, and it was
Lighting
super
effects.
gory.
Oh well, yeah.
And the sequel,
Reloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
They had to stretch their thinking caps for that one.
Yeah, they were like Loaded too.
CJ's
I
really
got a
cynical
better
tonight. Have you noticed that?
He's feisty.
Yeah.
He's feisty.
Apparently. All right, and let's move on because the next story also involves some remaking or sequelizing some classic games.
I was trying
Platinum.
to give you a transition earlier, but anyway.
Okay. Well, Platinum has announced that they are doing a game, Soul Cresta, which is a sequel to Moon Cresta and Terra Cresta, which are classic arcade games. And apparently they did this as like a April Fool's joke a while back. They were doing
Really?
this, but they're actually making it now.
Oh,
And it's also going to be the first title in a new brand, the Neo Classic Arcade Series. So similar to my question about what early 3D games you would want to see come back, this being like a sequel, new entry in an arcade series, are there any arcade games that you think would be cool to get this sort of Neo Classic treatment for?
Kaiketsu Yanchamaru.
The classic.
Kid Nicky?
Yes.
Kid Nicky Radical Ninja for you Westerners.
Kid Nicky Radical Ninja, of course.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to see a new Kid Nicky game.
Has that been released on Arcade Archives?
Yes.
It
Yes,
has.
is.
Oh, okay. Then maybe it might actually happen because
Kid Nicky
this
Radical
Neo
Ninja.
Classic Arcade series is actually a thing that Platinum is doing with Hamster, who
Oh.
does all of the Arcade Archives
They do.
titles. So
Yes, indeed.
Let's get a new Gradius.
Oh, yeah.
new Gradius would be good.
Gradius 6, would it be?
Sure.
Yeah, because 5 was on PS2, right?
PS2, yeah. Or they could do Gradius Gaiden 2.
Well, they did Rebirth, didn't they?
They
The
did do
Wii.
Rebirth.
Yeah.
Hey, how about just bring the Rebirth games out?
Bring the
Hey, that's
Rebirth
a good
games
idea.
back. If
Yeah.
Konami liked money, maybe they
The
would do
Rebirth
that.
collection.
That would be
'Cause
good.
what- How were there 3 Rebirth games?
Yes,
Castlevania,
Contra, Castlevania,
Gradius.
and Gradius.
Yeah, it was the Castlevania Adventure. It was the Game Boy game that they
Yes,
did.
yes, it was,
the-
yes, you're
the
right.
Rebirth of, yeah.
Yes.
Oh man.
I would love to see, although this probably won't happen within the Neo Classic Arcade series because it probably will center on Japanese arcade games, but I'd love to see like Midway games get a revamp, like Smash TV. I thought it was always like ripe for some kind of revamp. You could do a lot with Smash TV.
Yeah.
I think really any of those classic Midway arcade games.
Narc 2.
What's that?
Narc 2.
Narc 2. Why
Narc
not?
2.
Time for a new Narc.
I
Well,
mean,
they already did do a Narc reboot on the Xbox.
Yeah, but come on.
That was terrible, but
Yes.
it was,
Yes.
it was Narc.
But it wasn't Narc 2.
That's fair.
It was just called
It
Narc.
was not called Narc 2.
Yeah.
let's do a new 2D Mortal Kombat. I mean, that series is dead, right?
It's dead. Hasn't been
Jesus.
revitalized at all.
More like
I
a
wa-
fatality.
I want King of Monsters. King of Monsters.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to see that come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And Phil, I know people haven't heard it yet, but Rampage, that needs to come back somehow, some way, because I love that. And I
Which
took
one
your
was that?
advice. Rampage was, you told me it was in the Midway Arcade Classics.
You're talking about a conversation Phil had with you last week. He doesn't know.
I apologize.
Right.
Is this an
Anywho,
old
listeners,
game?
Rampage, I want back, and King of Monsters. I like those monster fighting games. Those are always a good time.
Yes, indeed.
That was
Yeah.
good.
King
Yeah.
Monsters would be cool.
I
Yeah.
think there's a game coming out in it, like an indie game that is very similar to King of Monsters that I've seen some footage of.
Oh, yeah.
I'll find that and send that to you, Luke.
Yeah, please
Sim-
do.
Cindy the
Yeah.
cat in the chat is also mentioning light gun games. It'd be great to get, I mean, we have some form of controllers that we can use as light gun controllers at this point. It'd be great to get some light gun arcade games.
Yeah.
House of the Dead, Virtua Cop, Time Crisis. And then, I mean,
agree with
Konami
that.
did a bunch of great games too. Like, there's the Aliens one. And
Yep.
be lots of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Good times.
Yep.
Good times.
Alien vs Predator is a good arcade game that should come back. You know, that 2D side scroller.
Capcom one.
I think it was Capcom
Yeah.
made it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. That was great.
Indeed. All right. Well, I think we
Mhm.
should just move along to what we've been playing.
Can I note one thing real quick on that?
Sure.
It was interesting to me, and it continues to be interesting to me, that a lot of these games that Platinum is doing, and he's bringing them back, are for Switch, PlayStation 4, and Steam. No mention of Xbox. And I think that's an interesting thing. It's happened on plenty of arcade games with them before, but it's just something that mentally I wonder why that is. Is it a relationship thing?
It is
But as-
punishment.
Upset about Scalebound.
It's
Yeah.
punishment for killing off the greatest retro arcade experience
Yes.
that there ever was, which was, of course, the Xbox. Was it Game Room?
Yeah.
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 Well, they felt like you had good sources on PlayStation Home. Remember that? Remember walking into your arcade on that one?
Oh, God. PlayStation.
Oh, terrible.
The other thing, too, before we move on from this story,
Yeah.
by the way, that game looked really good. The shooter, I'm actually
Soul
interested.
Cresta?
Yeah, I'm actually
Yeah, it
interested because
does.
it doesn't
Sounds
look like
great.
a crazy bullet hell shooter. It actually looks
Yeah, it looks like
kind
a
of like
kind
a
of
shooter
classic old school shooter.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just, not just a bullet hell
with a really
memorize these patterns.
interesting ship link thing. That you can
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really like
I
how
wanna
that
play it.
looks.
Yep. I will get
Me
it.
too. Coming out this year.
Yeah.
Later this year.
Did you watch the little trailer for it?
I did.
Where they tease you? They're like, "Oh, it's coming 2022," and then a little ship comes out and goes, "Pew!"
Blink.
and changes the 2 to a 1.
I love that. That's
Great.
great.
It is,
Great little touch.
I get it. I get it. You guys are having
Being
fun.
cute with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
For it.
Let's get into what you've been playing. Luke, since you are our guest, we will have you go first.
Oh man, lately I've put a lot of time into 2 games. One of them I've enjoyed more than the other in putting time in, but the first is Death's Door, which is just absolutely fantastic. It is a Zelda-like classic, like kind of top-down-ish Zelda-like game with influences that I think people will probably draw comparisons to, like Dark Souls, which
Don't
is
say it,
an
don't say it.
overused. It's an overused one, right? But really, what people mean by that is that the bosses are very tough but fair, and there's a lot of timing involved in it. But the combat's very simple, which I really appreciate, because the more complexity and layered systems, sometimes I lose the game. But going around in a Zelda-like world, a classic Zelda-like world, think Link to the Past, has just been a joy, and it's doing something that I don't get a lot of and not enough of from games right now. The art is beautiful, very vibrant colors will splash against some pretty muted backgrounds. You play as a crow who is trying to get death to work again, because death has stopped, and that of course will bring chaos on the universe. And you move through, there's a lot of humor, a lot of good writing. I had the privilege to talk to the people who made it, and they really touched on how they wanted to balance humor with difficulty. And there's a lot of good writing in there as well. Death's Door, easily a Game of the Year contender for me.
Wow.
And I say that wholeheartedly. The one downside, I think, is that it's PC and Xbox exclusive. And so there's an entire player base that is excluded from it that it's perfect for in the Switch, and a huge player base in the PlayStation that are equally deserving of getting to play this game. So it's kind of a bummer, but I know they don't have plans right now to bring it anywhere else, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah, I forget which podcast I heard this on, but what made me interested in this game was hearing that while a lot of people are drawing comparisons to Dark Souls with the boss encounters, the way that they look at boss design is to make it so that if you as a player like step back and really analyze the pattern of the boss, you're going to be pretty safe. Like it's not going to it's not bullet hell. Like you can take a step back, take a breather for a second, and analyze what the boss is doing and attack. But if you run in furiously and just try to hit the boss multiple times, you're probably going to get hit a bunch and die. But you have that sort of push pull then of attacking and then also backing away, because one of the weapons you have, the arrow, actually you have like a limited, you can only shoot 4 times before you have to hit something in close range with your melee weapon, and then you regain shots for the arrow. So it's sort of like teaching you to do that, go in close range, get a couple hits, then back away and do some distance projectile bullets at the boss. And that to me made me want to play this game. And I did buy it, and I have played a little bit of it, not as much as most people who are singing its praises, but I do see very much that Zelda influence. I see the Dark Souls influence, but I'm also appreciating the difficulty balance of the boss characters and how it doesn't feel to me like a Souls. It clearly visually kind of influenced that way, yes.
Right.
But to me, it plays much more like a top-down Zelda game than a Souls game.
Right. And I think that's exactly the way you should think of it. And that's the problem with that Dark Souls analogy, is that it's overused and people think of it as dismissive. But I will say a couple things work for the game in that it's got a Metroid element to it, in that you will see things that you cannot access right away that make the world layered, which is really nice. It's only about 10 hours if you're halfway decent. I took a little bit longer to explore things, but you can speed run it in as little as like 4. So that's a perfect, I think, length of a game. Right. Yeah. I really like that. It's not too much to play. There's an interesting conundrum, though, in that this is an Xbox PC exclusive that is a really good indie game, and it's not on Game Pass. And that changed the desire. I noticed the conversation surrounding it very different, because people were making the assumption that it was on Game Pass, which is interesting.
That's the danger of Game Pass right now, right?
Yeah.
Like now it's become so ubiquitous that if you're especially an indie studio that wants to sell your game on Xbox, as opposed to put it on Game Pass, it's a different conversation. I will say that with the Dark Souls reference you're making actually makes me reluctant to try it.
Yeah,
even though what you're saying sounds really good.
I think that's the danger of that analogy.
Yeah.
Don't let that analogy put you off. If I can if I could retract that, I would, because I don't want to steer you away from that game. Because it is a worthwhile experience. It's $20, so it won't break the bank. I think it's a perfect price point for that game. Interestingly, I learned in talking to Acid Nerve, which is the developer, PlayStation passed on it, and so did Switch. They were not interested, I guess, in picking it up, and they were not candidates for Game Pass. And now it's this big hit, which is this interesting element to how games get made and how games get picked up and the expectations of them.
Yeah,
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
Greg, I think you should watch some videos of this game and
Yeah, I will.
it'll give you a better idea of the gameplay. But I think Luke is right. It's Zelda style combat. I think the Dark Souls thing is maybe a little overused. So, yeah. What else you got there, Luke?
Let's see. I've also been playing a dungeon crawler called Blightbound. It recently released. Both of these were actually published by Devolver Digital, who are kind of like an indie focused publisher, of course. But Blightbound it's a bit of a more mixed bag. Beautiful hand-drawn art, reminiscent of Dragon's Crown. If anyone has memories of that. Less sexualized, I think, is the right way to say that. A little less emphatic in some areas, but the art style popped in a way that was reminiscent of that. Really very heavy in terms of layers of systems and buffs and debuffs and healer and tank and rogues. And there's a lot to this game that I don't think a lot of people are going to get to because it is rough around the edges, which is a shame. I also had the privilege of talking to that team, and they know that, which was kind of interesting to hear them talk about their own game and the complexities that they built in being over ambitious. A team of around 20-ish people through the course of making it. But in playing Blightbound, I found myself really liking it as a simple just dungeon crawler. I liked that element of it, but I don't see myself playing it ad nauseum.
Okay.
Yeah. There's that. Oh, are you going to keep going and do the last one too?
Keep going.
All right.
Well, there's one on your list here that I want to hear more about because I think I saw you post a clip on Twitter of Skydrift Infinity.
Yeah.
It looks like a racing, racing. No.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Racing planes, and there's combat in it too, and it looks pretty cool.
Yes. Skydrift Infinity is exactly what you described. It's an airplane racing game that was reminiscent for me of like Diddy Kong Racing in some ways, but not. How do I describe this? It's not evolved, I guess, in any way, shape, or form. You get the very standard missiles or guns
without the squirrels and bears,
and the
of
shield.
course.
Yeah, obviously. But it's the exact thing I wanted from it. Whenever you look at a trailer for Skydrift Infinity, it is exactly that. It will be no more. It will not be less. And that is what I'm getting out of it. And it's fun. I like those kind of games. There's a place for that. Skydrift Infinity is dope. It tries to do a little bit with drifting in the air. Didn't even bother with it. Haven't had the need for it. But it's cool. I like just flying around and flying through things. It reminds me of a number of older titles that just bring smiles to my face. So yeah, Skydrift Infinity is fun.
Like looking at the gameplay there, it reminded me a lot of like an early 2000s arcade style racing game, but in the air. So
yes,
I was very, very curious. I think this one's out on Switch, and I'm kind of curious to see how that runs on Switch, but it looking really good on Xbox.
I liked it a lot, and I do like it a lot, but I will not pretend that it's somehow worlds beyond anything in the racing fine, but it's pure arcade silliness. And you're right, the arcade analogy is perfect. This is something that you would play at a Chuck E. Cheese back in the day or Dave and Buster's now, and you just laugh your butt off the whole way. And I dig it. I like it. So.
Cool.
Yeah,
sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to ask you guys what the EGM editors would say about a mixed bag.
Mixed bag?
I don't know. Jeff Grubb wanted me to say it.
Mixed bag fans rejoice. This game, if you are a fan of
did we
type of
overuse
game,
the term mixed bag?
We overuse so many terms. How can we keep track?
Then this is a game that you will love.
The funny thing about that is there used to be like a list of banned terms, like
Mhm.
things we couldn't write. Like,
X fans rejoice was the first one on the list, I think.
yeah, we couldn't say, X fans rejoice. And then we couldn't also say, like, if you're a fan of blank,
Yep.
then you'll like
Right.
this. That became banned. Like, we couldn't
Mhm.
do that
Yep.
anymore. And with good reason, because it's a complete cop out in a review.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
I forget what some of the other ones are. Mixed bag is probably one
Mixed
of
bag-
those.
mixed
It
bag was
sounds
definitely
Basically,
on
any
there.
phrase that really didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like, or the word vague, or no, not
The
vague.
word
unique.
vague was too vague.
Unique.
Yeah, exactly.
Unique. What does
Unique.
unique mean? Like
Unique.
unique art style.
Yeah.
Unique, yeah. Explain what you
Visceral?
mean by that.
Was
Not
Visceral
vague.
on there?
Visceral, yeah.
That was a
Visceral was a
word that got
that was
overused.
a
Overused.
lot.
Overused.
There was
All
a
right.
there was a time, I don't know if you guys, and by you guys I mean CJ and Greg, if you guys caught on to this just because you were on EGM at the time, but
Hmm.
there was a while where blank is the new black was
Oh.
used in your magazine a lot. You know, when it just
I don't remember
describing.
us. I don't remember
I
us
don't-
overusing anything in our magazine.
I
think
don't
that was
remember
mistaken.
that specifically.
Yeah, that
But I can
for some
imagine.
reason that particular phrase, someone started using that, and then everyone started using it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even now, I like cringe when I read video game headlines that are, or reviews that are blank fans rejoice.
yeah, people still use that,
People still use it all the time.
and I it's
that
like
is not
such a-
that is not an opening to
It's
your
such a
review. I'm
cliche.
sorry. Or your
Yeah.
news story. It's
Yeah.
just
I will say I find the comparison or the analogy helpful somewhere when somebody's discussing a game. If you like X, then you will like Y. Maybe not in a review
Yes.
proper, but that helps me a lot, except when I say Dark Souls and don't mean it. But that does
Right.
help me often figure out where I stand on a game.
And I mean, remember,
Well-
a lot of these phrases were also banned because for most of the reviews, we were at a very small word count.
yeah.
So it was kind of
That's
a
true, too.
don't waste your precious words saying nothing. Like if it,
Yeah.
you know, if you had 1,000 words, or you have an internet, you're on the internet and posting a review, a little different. I think it probably wouldn't have been quite so strict.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the if you love blank, you'll like blank was really because for negative reviews or like middle of the road, like, well, if you like this, then you'll love it.
Yeah.
You'll love this game.
If you like these types of games, then this game is for you.
yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily comparing, like if
Yeah.
you like Dark Souls, you might like Death's Door. Like, I think that's a much more valid
Yeah.
reason. It's not if you liked, I'm trying to think of a game.
Flintstones
No
bowling.
more
Balan
Heroes
Wonderworld.
1, you'll like No More Heroes 3
Flintstones
or something
bowling.
like that.
I wanted to know your Balan Wonderworld analogy.
Oh,
What could that possibly? If you like that,
if you like Billy Hatcher, you're gonna love Wonderworld.
there you go.
Poor Billy Hatcher.
Poor Billy Hatcher. Not a good
Uh,
game.
Nah, I didn't like Billy Hatcher either.
Anyway. What else you got, Luke? Is that it? Jesus.
Oh, you know what it is I need to be invited into and talk about my last game. Yes, I will reluctantly tell everybody because I just get thrown at for liking this game. I'm really liking the work they're doing to Marvel's Avengers,
Uh-huh.
which launched in a
Oh.
state that I don't think was respectable.
You're the guy.
I'm
Well,
the
that
one.
guy.
Me and 6 other people are having a
when
blast
you
right
when
now.
you say you're enjoying what they've done to Marvel's Avengers,
Sure.
elaborate on that. Like what have they
Absolutely.
done to like bring you back or has brought your group back to Avengers?
So when the game launched in its initial state, anybody could enjoy a pretty solid campaign at the time. Anybody could go in and have done that. There's a very compelling story, good writing, good voice acting, reasonable visuals for a story with Kamala Khan. And so I recommend that for anybody who's passively interested in a good superhero 6-hour event. Like if you paid $20-$30 for Avengers, you get that's what you get, and it's great. But since then, they've been criticized for a number of things: buggy states, slow load times, bad UI, inability to have end game content. Because there were 2 games there. There's a good campaign, and there was an end game looter And that was what was really fell short, was that looter experience. Since it launched, it's gotten a wonderful glow up for PS5 and Xbox Series S and X. The load times have been improved on Xbox One and PS4 as well. They've done a lot to fix that end game content. They've been dropping in new missions and new levels, new enemies, reworking the designs, because it was not fun to play. Like, really, it was very repetitive. And at its core, if you got your hero leveled up, you had really cool abilities. You could do some really dope stuff, but it took too long to get there. So they've cleaned a lot of that experience up, and in a week and a half, they'll launch War for Wakanda, which is said to be I would expect it's Marvel's Avengers' last chance to really hit main, but it's kind of like their Taken King that Destiny 1 had. And it looks, for all intents and purposes, like it's going to be just that. They've got an entire UI redesign that they put on display last week that looks wonderful. A lot more information on screen, a lot cleaner, a lot more fluid for those people who care about looters. And you now have, since launch, you had 6 heroes. With the War for Wakanda, you'll have 9. And they're all free to play. You can play with all of them. You can unlock their battle pass if you want to. And each battle pass costs $10, but gives you $13 of currency if you beat it. So, I mean, it's an incentive to get you spending money in their system. Let's spade a spade. But there's a lot of game there at a very cheap buy-in. And so somehow, some way, the game didn't get canned in its year since. And they've cleaned it up a lot by way of UI and endgame prospects, which I'm shocked at, but very pleased with. I'm very much enjoy going to play it now with the things that they've added in and the abilities of the heroes and the cosmetics. They look like the movies. Their economy is still a little fluffed, but they do a lot of regular sales, which they weren't doing at first because they lost all this money and they had to get people spending money. They finally figured out that bundles make sense and not overcharging. People spend more. So it's on the right track if they can keep that trajectory. And that's the question, whether or not they can keep the trajectory. So I'm enjoying it while I can.
So who are the new characters, the 3 new characters? I'm assuming one is Black Panther.
Yes, one is Black Panther. He will launch in a week and a half. Between, like, as we're talking and when the game had initially launched, they put out Hawkeye and Kate Bishop, who are 2 archers, which is
isn't that essentially the same character?
So that's the problem. They should not have done it that way. There's a lot of things they shouldn't have done, but they're very different in play style. Very different. They play very differently. They move very differently. One teleports. Kate Bishop has a special tech thing. She's a teleporter. And it's really neat. Like, they play really well, but you can't release 2 archers back to back and tell somebody who's not playing the game. Well, you can't do that and then tell somebody they're really different and people believe you, right? Like, that's just not gonna happen. For God's sake, she's named Hawkeye in some of the versions of the comics, right? So
can you play as Harley Quinn? Because I just saw that the Suicide Squad movie.
I saw that too. You can play as her in a hit game that, all right, it's a little indie title. You guys heard of this? Their Fortnite. You heard of this little Fortnite game? You can play as the Harley Quinn and the blood sports in there. And
is that like Among Us?
It is just like Among Us, yeah. Just like Among Us.
That I've seen.
Yeah.
Just like Among Us in that it's massively popular and none of us have played it.
Like PUBG.
I played PUBG once.
We played together.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
There you go. See?
Once. Exactly one time.
And I remember saying, boy, I really hate this on the chat. And then I never touched it again.
Yeah. I played PUBG once and then I was done. But did I answer your question about Avengers?
Absolutely. Yes.
So? Okay. Yeah. Cool. Greg, you're grinning in a way that tells me
I'm telling you, no, the reason I'm grinning is because this goes back to what you were, the beginning of what you were saying, where you're saying this is like they're Taken King in Destiny, and all I could think of was like, man, you are talking to the wrong crowd.
I know. I knew.
I get what you were saying.
Some of our listeners,
clearly, that was a big thing that sort of put Destiny on the right track, but
the Taken King.
Nobody in the room understood you.
Well, here's what I think is an interesting difference. You know, obviously Avengers is a licensed game, so obviously they have to pay a lot of money to Marvel to continue supporting this.
It's worth their while to keep
like
going.
Destiny, where Bungie can just continue with their vision forever if they wanted to, right?
Well, as long as Activision wants to pay for it.
Well, as long as Activision did want to pay them, but then they bought it back from Activision.
They bought it back,
right? The developers on Avengers can't do that as easily. So I have to imagine there is a point where the people who control the money at Square Enix are going to be like, look, this Avengers thing just isn't working out, right?
But
They're
it's
making
still
money
Marvel.
now. And talking to certain people there, I know they've got Spider-Man on the way. Sony's in charge of marketing that part.
Right.
There is another hero on the way that is supposed to release before the end of the year, and
Do we know who it is?
I do know who it is. It's it is.
Trying to remember.
No, I know.
Is it-
A lot of
Harley
the work
Quinn.
is already done. The work is done
Oh,
with
okay.
that character, and it's a matter of timing and release and making sure it coincides with
Yeah.
Marvel's bigger plans for certain Marvel projects.
Call
So
him Dr. S.
let's call her something else.
Oh,
Yeah. Cool.
Harley Quinn.
Well, I mean, I
Gwen
love to
S?
see games that were released to sort of muted reception, like fix themselves up and get rolling as live services. We've seen it, half dozen times or more by this point. So hopefully Avengers will be one of those games.
I hope so too, because it's an example of being done right. Master Chief Collection, Sea of Thieves, Destiny 1 and 2, Division
No
1
Man's
to
Sky.
2, No Man's Sky. There's a
No
lot of
Man's
games
Sky.
that people work really hard on and they
Final
botch
Fantasy
because of
11 or whatever as well.
14.
right.
14.
14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a disaster when it came out.
Yeah.
When I see how hard certain teams work on games and then outside circumstances condemn them, that makes
Yeah.
me kind of bummed out. And I think that's what happened with this one and a few of the ones we mentioned. It's like bigger outside of the gaming industry issues or executive issues when the people making the game are really busting their butts. So here's hoping.
Which is more often than not.
Sadly.
Like,
True.
bad games they don't set out to make a bad game.
That's true.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's move on to Greg.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but Picross S is back in its, what I have to say, its ultimate form. I can't see how Picross could ever be better than this, but I'm sure they'll keep trying.
They
And
could do a
maybe they'll
Dreamcast,
succeed.
Saturn and Dreamcast edition.
Nope, wouldn't be better than this. But
No.
okay. I mean, maybe
all
they'll
that,
succeed.
all that wonderful pixel art you see in the Dreamcast.
Dreamcast.
That's right.
But yeah, so there's the Picross S. What is it? What's it called? Mega Drive and Master System or something like that.
No, it's called Genesis.
and Master System Edition.
Thank you. Genesis and Master System Edition. So, of course, yes, the latest Picross to come out is completely centered around Sega and more specifically the Master System and Genesis era of Sega's releases. And I mean, there's not really much else to say about it except it's Picross, but with Sega-themed puzzles. And by the way, amazing music to solve these puzzles to. It's Magical
Although it
Sound
does-
Shower, I believe, right?
Doesn't it
Yep.
only have like 6 music tracks?
Who cares? They're the best music tracks ever.
It has the same number of music tracks that all the other Picross S games have, which is
There you
like
go.
4 or 5
It's not
tracks.
right.
I can't get tired of that, though.
And it's not.
They picked the right ones to use.
Oh,
over.
they picked the right one. It's great.
I gotta
It's
say.
absolutely great. I do wish there was more music for this particular game,
Sure.
just because the Genesis
Because there's so much to
Has-
choose from.
such a wide variety of classic soundtracks that would be just great to listen to while you play this game.
Yes.
But what I will say makes me, I mean, I was going to enjoy this no matter what anyway, but what's made me very happy, and I've only gone through probably 4 pages of puzzles right now.
Yeah.
There are some deep cuts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're getting puzzles from
Right.
games that I did not expect. Like I think I've seen stuff from Quartet in there.
Yep.
And
Multiple ones
Kid
from
Chameleon and Eternal Champions, which I know are big Genesis games, but considering this is a Japanese developer, I kind of expected it to stick more to the bigger Japanese Genesis
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
So seeing a couple of American games so well represented there too, but there's just
There was something
Yeah.
from the Ooze I saw.
there's something
Is
from
there
the
really?
Ooze in there. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Like, I mean,
Yes.
they were really spreading it out because it'd be so easy to have, it be all Alex Kidd and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Like it just would have been so simple for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think people would have complained all that much, but it's just nice because right out of the gate, you're getting all this stuff from all these games that I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, there's not much else to say about it. It's Picross S. It's as good as Picross S has ever been. But the theme, yes, I will take this all day, every day.
I want to see them do a like a retro Nintendo Picross.
Yeah.
Put in more retro Nintendo stuff like they did. I think they did for the Nintendo Power system in Japan, which is you take a Super Nintendo cartridge to 7-Eleven, or I think Lawson was actually the convenience store you take it to, and they did like they did like 7 or 8 or maybe more installments of Picross for that.
Oh,
that
really?
We never got in the US, obviously, but they did have retro Nintendo sprites in that.
They did,
which would be nice to have. But.
Yeah, they also did for the 3DS. There was the Pokemon
Zelda
Picross
and Zelda,
and there was
the
Zelda one, which was a My Nintendo reward. You can
it was a
actually still
freebie.
get it. Yeah, but it would be nice to see a Nintendo Picross as well. But I'll take the Sega one.
I'll take this one anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just really. I mean, Picross S. They're great. I haven't played every single one of them, but they're kind of like go to. You don't have to think. For me, I don't have to think about buying them.
Right.
I just, hey, I want to play Picross, and if I played through all the puzzles of the ones I own, I'll just go for whatever the next Picross S is that I haven't bought yet.
Yeah.
But just loving the theme.
Mm-hmm.
So
I gotta
Greg,
say,
go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead, Luke.
Well, I was going to ask, would you say this is the Taken King of Picross games?
this is the Taken King of Picross games. Yes, and I think you all understand what I mean by that.
Absolutely. King is
all big
the guy
Destiny players
with the tiger mask in
Tekken.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big Sega game.
Yeah.
Tekken King. Yes.
Tekken King. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
We got it.
Yeah.
It's good.
He's a
Good.
wrestler.
No, never mind.
And Mr. Coffee, Mr. Radar in the chat says, I can't get into Picross. I tried so many times. My brain is dumb. Yes. I was like you once, Mr. Coffee, Mr. Radar. And I think Picross S really helped me just because it has a lot of tutorials in it. It starts off nicely, and it has little assists that you can turn on to really help. Like using the shoulder buttons to count blocks. Like I use that a lot. And little like you can put down the O marks to like figure out exactly where you're gonna put things. I don't know
like just little placeholders when you think that might be a colored block, but you're not sure.
Exactly. Like those types of things really helped me get it.
Yeah.
So
download
the demo and go through some of the tutorials. But I totally understand like it seeming like you just can't quite click with it.
It can be a little overwhelming at first because you're just looking at a big grid with a bunch of numbers, and you're just like, I have no idea what any of this means.
Right.
Yeah. The original, I'm sure I've explained this on the show before, but what got me into Picross back in the day, which was for the original Mario's Picross
Game Boy,
out on the old black and white Game Boy back in the day, the ad that ran in US magazines was I mean, I can't say it was a good ad. It probably wasn't terribly effective since Picross did not take off right away.
Right.
But it was just a big close up of Mario's face with a couple little screenshots, and then the center of the page was Mario's big old round fleshy nose, and right in that little empty void of his nose was just a paragraph describing the rules of Picross. Just
okay, that definitely didn't
terrible ad.
Sell any copies to anybody.
Absolutely not. Here it's it sold one copy.
Okay,
probably exactly one copy, because I actually sat there and I actually read this little chunk of the instruction manual.
Yeah.
And I looking at the screenshots and kind of going, oh, that sounds like it might actually be kind of interesting.
From the same ad wizards that said this game stinks for Earthbound.
Yes, exactly.
With the scratch off ad
campaign.
campaign.
Yeah, the scratch and sniff.
The ads for Earthbound really did say this game stinks.
Yes.
Every now and then Nintendo lost their way on that stuff. Not often.
But yeah, I read the ad, which was just a chunk of the instruction manual. Said this sounds like it might actually be fun, and it turned out it was fantastic. And I was the only one who thought that for many years.
Well, they should have called it. They should have gone with the Tetris attack style and just called it like Artris or Art Tetris. Tetris art. There you go. Done.
And this is why CJ
they
should
have called it Artris Art Tetris Art. That would have been Mario's Artris Art Tetris Art.
I think we have a show title.
Yeah, you gonna get it right?
No.
Mario's Tetris Art. Perfect.
Yeah, I love it.
There you go. CD's writing that down right now.
No.
Boy.
Okay, so anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. I actually also have started finally. So I've been buying the Yakuza games since they released the first one here on the PlayStation 2
Yeah.
back, well, what, almost 20 years ago, probably at this point. Yeah, less than that, 15, 20. Anyway, I've never really spent any time on any of them. And I have 1, 2, 3, I think I have up to 4 or 5. So I decided it's time to start playing them. And but
Especially
I
now that
decided
they're on
to
Game Pass too.
And that's one of the
Now
reasons
they're
why I
free.
thought about it. I was looking around and I saw that they're all on Game Pass. And it's like, you know what? Because my understanding now is going back to the ones that were on PlayStation 2 is kind of rough.
Yeah.
Because they have some control issues that, I'm sure I could get around. I'm used to playing a lot of old games, but the Kiwami versions of 1 and 2 are much more modern and they look nicer. So I've been playing, and I hope I'm saying that right, been playing Yakuza Kiwami. And man, I've been agreeing with everyone who says that these games are great for years and years and years, but it's so great. This game's so great. Like that series is just, and it's this perfect mixture of this like extremely serious, Yakuza story that feels like it's right out of a good action movie with extremely absurd jokes and foolish situations. Like I know the main thing for me right now, I'm on a side quest where one of the mini games in the game is I forget what it's called, but it's like model car racing. Where it's kind of like slot car racing, but the whole idea is that you build these cars. I forget what they're called. You build these little cars and you race them in this slot track. And the first time you go there, you're greeted by the guy who used to be the announcer. So the main character remembers fondly in his past how he was really into these things. That sounds like so much fun. I should go check that place out again because, man, I used to love doing that stuff. And, in your mind, you're thinking, okay, so when he was a kid. And so you get the story started, and as he's reminiscing every time, and he keeps meeting these people that he used to race against, but every time he's reminiscing, it's still shots. And, of course, they're all children except for him. He's fully grown. He's in, like, his, beautiful designer suit because he's a member of the Yakuza. And it's just so bizarre and ridiculous and so funny because they don't draw attention to it, right? Like it's not like with a wink and a nod. He's not looking at the camera and saying like, it's just so matter of fact that there are all these little children racing the cars and this full-grown man who is so into it and so excited about it. But anyway, it's just like the game is full of that stuff, and it's so interesting, so much fun, and as clearly there's Shenmue DNA there, but so far beyond what that game ever was.
Well, the Yakuza games are fun.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, glad to finally be experiencing them, and I don't know that I'll be playing them back to back to back, but
but you could.
I definitely could if I wanted to.
Yes, you could.
I do want to play Like a Dragon at some point in the near future because I know that one's really crazy.
I think I'm on chapter 3 of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. A lot of talking. That one.
A lot of talking, just like this place. The other thing that I've been playing, and I don't think I've been mentioning too much about, is I've been playing through Resident Evil Village.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was a big fan of 7. And then a buddy of mine had Village and played through it and lent me his copy. I've been streaming it on Monday nights actually, so I'm through. I don't know if the game's in 4 chapters, but at least a big chunk of the game is in basically 4 chapters, and I've completed 3 of them. And
What's been your favorite so far?
the giant baby.
Yeah.
It's creepy as hell. So it's really split up. Like the first part of it is all about like werewolves when you're in the town, and then you get into the big castle with the vampire lady and her daughters, which is kind of what everyone knew with Village when the demos were happening, and all the the big lady, how do you say her name? Demetrio or
Demetresque.
Thank you. Everyone knows her because of the memes.
Yes.
And then like after that, you get into this dollhouse where you get down into this lower area and are eventually just being chased by a giant, mostly formed baby. And it's the freakiest thing in the world. It's
It's not comedic. He means that it's gross.
It's really gross. And
is it crawling or is it
Or
like
column
maybe
A.
shuffling?
is it up on like 2 legs, like toddling
No.
like a little baby
No.
just learning how to walk?
It's too big to be up on 2 legs in the area you're in. So,
Okay.
but
It's like the
that was-
thing.
and it's funny because when you really look back at it, that area is very scripted. It is like the thing. That's really a good point, actually. But it's a very
all covered
scripted
in rock and
sequence.
clobbering
I didn't
time.
wait long enough to see it too closely. I saw it in shadows. So
Yeah,
I get it.
I
I
understood
see
that
what you're
reference.
saying.
yeah. He's always mad at at Johnny Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Now,
Johnny Fire.
Greg, you said you've done 3 of them, you said?
Yeah, so I just finished the it was very forgettable. The 3rd section.
Yeah.
I was actually very disappointed after the
It's like the fish guy?
dollhouse.
That's the one where you're chased by
The
the
giant
regular size
fish
baby.
thing sucked.
So
It was a major come down.
I'm very interested to hear you on your next talking point for this, because the last quarter of the game will shift in tone substantially. It is still elite. It is still a great game. The bar is equally as high, but it's like a different game.
So I seem to have, and I didn't follow this up too much, but from watching and reading what people have been saying about it, was this game created through elements of other canceled games or something? Because that's what it feels like. Because honestly, the first part, the parts I've played so far have felt wildly different. And not necessarily in a bad way. I mean, it's very thematic, like, with the lichens at the beginning and the vampires, and then the dollhouse, and then the weird mutant fish Quasimodo thing. But like, especially those 2 and butting up back to back with the dollhouse and the fish thing feels like they feel like completely different games to me.
The comparison that I don't know, first of all, I don't know the definitive answer to your question, but when I look at the track record of Resident Evil over the past like 10 years, Resident Evil 6 was like 4 campaigns together, very fractured in
It was
presentation.
It
was very bad. I thought so too. Then you had Resident Evil Revelations 2, which, unlike the 3DS game, was presented episodically because they wanted to sell them episodically. Pretty much better Resident Evil experience, I would argue. They had 7, which was based on kind of the success of the PT demo. And that's where you got, I think, your dollhouse version of Village.
That felt very much like a Resident Evil 7 area.
And I think that what you're seeing is kind of the reaction to things like Man of Medan, the Dark Pictures and games, where they want to have their own kind of smaller stories within it because it's more digestible. But Capcom's, I think, just trying to find their way with Resident Evil because they've got the remakes that are successful.
Yeah. And I think having when I'm saying wildly different, thematically, it doesn't bother me. It makes sense in the way they set up the world with the sort of the village as the hub. I don't mind the themes being so wildly different because I feel like they've set that up all right, for better or worse. I feel like they set it up all right, but quality of the experience feels wildly different too. Like it is really, yeah.
I think it's a matter of
peaks and valleys.
I think it's a matter of what scares you, what type of horror.
I suppose.
And the analogy that I often think of with Resident Evil 7 and 8, because there are people that fall into either camp. 7 to me reminds me of Alien, and 8 reminds me of Aliens. Both great, but like one was much more action based and exciting, and people that loved Aliens maybe didn't dig the slower, methodical alien horror, but they were both really good. At least that's how fair. I think of the two.
That's good. That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm still enjoying it. So I'm going to play the 4th part tomorrow night. I've been streaming it on Monday nights over at my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Stewart. So, hey, if you want to tune in and see it, whatever the 4th part is, we're going to play it. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, not for too long a time, but was streaming Outrun 2 on Thursday night. And man, I hadn't forgotten how much I like that game. But God, it's a good game. And you know what? It's time. It's time for really Outrun 3.
Hey,
Outrun 2 is almost 20 years old.
.mu.
Yes. They focus home,
Yes. Outrun 2 is almost 20 years old. You know what? Don't worry about spending the money on all the Ferraris, although that was a nice touch. So, of course, the original Outrun featured I think it was a Testarossa. I don't know that they ever had a license for it, but every time it's been re-released, you see that the car looks the same, but the little logo is not the prancing horse on the back. It looks like some kind of eagle or something. But with Outrun 2, of course, and the reason why it's been delisted is because they went all in. They got the Ferrari license. There were a bunch of different actual Ferraris you could unlock and race in the game, which was fantastic. But the game itself was just perfect. I don't normally like drifting. I loved drifting in that game. The mechanics just felt good, and it was pretty on top of everything else. It was gorgeous, and boy, does it ever hold up. It's funny because I was streaming it, and people who were coming in who hadn't actually ever played it were asking if it was a 360 game. Streaming the Xbox One, and it's like, no, but boy, does it look like it could be. I mean, it was so pretty. And it's like it's been almost 20 years now, and if one of the things that's holding it back is not wanting to do a Ferrari license again, don't. Just do generic cars, generic sports cars. Who cares? But it's been long enough. Let's get an Outrun 3, please. It's time.
That'd be great.
So
I'd play it.
I wouldn't even have to think about it. And then, of course, I already had that in my mind. And then, of course, Picross Genesis and Master System came out. And what's the music playing while you're,
yes, indeed,
while you're doing all those. Speaking of which, and that's actually the other thing I want to say that I had forgotten about Outrun 2 is some great remixes of the classic soundtrack as well. To the point that I'm thinking, I don't know why I don't own a copy of the soundtrack for this game. There must be one. Because boy, are there some nice remixes of the original tracks. Yeah. So I have to go look that up. But yeah, anyway, that's what I've been playing this week.
All right, Phil.
I'm gonna go look up the soundtrack right now while Phil's talking.
Do it. I'm not gonna say anything interesting, so you're fine.
I know.
Okay.
You know what? Of course I've been playing the Sega Picross as well, and my gosh, I don't know what it is, if it's just the general vibe of that game, if it's seeing all that cool Sega blue splashed all over my TV, hearing that classic Sega music, seeing all those old school Sega sprites, but it's been kicking up a lot of old school Sega nostalgia in me in a way that I
playing through some Kid Chameleon
have not had in a while. Yeah, well, and some of it was even good. Kid Chameleon was a terrible game. Kid Chameleon is not good. But
I would agree with that.
I just it's been hitting some of the right buttons there for the old 1989, 1990 nostalgia, just getting your first taste of 16-bit consoles, when you're so used to the NES.
Yep.
And there's some good times in that little buffer zone when the Genesis was kind of the only game in town as far as next gen stuff goes, before the whole 16-bit system wars began. And yeah, just some fond memories of gaming days gone by. Traveling out to some weird import store where they have a mega CD on display, and you get to try Black Hole Assault for the first time, and you pretend to like it because.
What about were you a Sona Video person?
Oh,
in
I
Chicago?
absolutely went to Sona
In the
Video.
Chicago suburbs, there was this video rental place that also rented a lot of import games.
Yeah.
Is that the Laserdisc place?
No,
No,
this is different.
no. Yeah,
But
Sona
so when
Video-
the Super Nintendo came out, they had Super Famicom games, and they like told you how to mod your system, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Were there two Sona Videos?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, the one I went to was the one in Bolingbrook.
That's the only one I've been to as well.
Okay. Yeah, actually my copy of Little Samson was purchased at Sona Video.
Really? Wow.
Yes,
Wow.
I've since removed the little Sona Video sticker
Yeah.
because it had the sticker on the back of the cartridge, and I was able to get it off without damaging it or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I absolutely I took a picture of it before I removed it because I was just like, oh man.
But that was the place in the Chicago suburbs.
Oh yeah.
I lived pretty far away from there.
Oh yeah, so did I.
You knew that they had like the import stuff.
Yeah, my friend Jim, who I've talked about on the show before, but Jim and I would occasionally, before we could drive, his mom would drive us up there and we would rent games and stuff because they had a vast selection of rental stuff, and they would get, like you were saying, that they would get all the import
It
stuff.
was like a paradise.
Oh,
Whoever
yeah.
was buying stuff for Sona Video was just like
Just
super
one of everything,
fanboy.
please.
One of everything.
One of
Yeah.
everything.
Like they would get all they were the only place I knew that rented unlicensed stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I remember Jim and I rented a chiller for the NES.
Wow.
From,
Chiller.
Yeah, the
Damn.
hyper
Yeah, our local
violent-
rental place was doing a lot of the
light gun
unlicensed
game.
stuff too.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I still remember renting Mario 3 from them too with the little Famicom adapter.
Oh yeah.
Right, like the 2-layer. Not having
Right.
any real clue what any of this was.
Yeah,
I had no idea that's
Yeah.
what Famicom cartridges look like.
right.
Imagine that being a thing now. Like, here's an adapter with your game.
I know, right? So
Good
great.
luck, kid.
So great. I probably paid like $5 for that copy of Little Samson.
With a little ribbon on it
Oh,
to make sure it
really?
didn't get stuck
Yeah,
in
when
the
I bought
system.
it from, because it was a used,
Yeah.
rental copy. It's in good shape, the labels intact and everything. But yeah, I mean, they were, they had stopped renting out NES games, so they were selling stuff. And yeah, I probably paid like $5 for that thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have a
Thank you, Sona
question.
Video. Yes, Liv.
It's not about Sona Video, but it was about the adapter
Well, then
thing.
What?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. A question for Greg.
We're talking about Chicago suburb video rental stuff.
what?
Very niche part of our listener audience is going to get this.
At least 3 people.
As many
Two
people
of them
shot
are
there
sitting
to
in
play
this room.
Avengers.
I believe it was located at York and Roosevelt Road.
Where you always say more money.
Go ahead, Luke, please.
Hey, Roosevelt
Woolsey
Road
and
was the way I
Edelson.
found my way home the first week I lived in Chicago.
See?
Boom.
It's like I'm stuck downtown. I don't know how to get back to the freeway. Wait, Roosevelt. I live
Yeah.
near Roosevelt now. Let's go down this way at 2:00 in the morning. Anyway, that was frightening.
Yeah.
God, guys.
What was the question?
I'm trying to remember. Okay.
Something about
adapters.
Rampage?
Adapters.
No, it's adapters. Okay, yes, yeah. Did places? Because I had a 32X well after the fact, and I got it for $6 at a Kmart, and
Overpaid.
You paid, yeah,
$6 was cool. I got Doom 32X.
you didn't overpay. Don't listen to Phil.
What if you wanted? Did places rent like the augment games like 32X or Sega CD or stuff?
Some places, I mean,
Some did.
around here, I can only speak around here. It took a while for there even to be Genesis games being rented around here because, I mean, of course, Nintendo was so ubiquitous at that point that like we had a corner store down the street that didn't even rent movies, but they started renting Nintendo games at one point just because it was a license to print money, right?
Yeah.
As long as they didn't get stolen. But around the time that the Genesis started to pick up steam, we started getting specialty stores around here too that rather than just being a movie rental place that also rented video games, which is what we mostly had, or a corner store that did both, or a bodega if you're in New York, I don't know. But you started to get video game specialty rental stores, and those places I found generally rented out more of the obscure stuff. Sega CD became kind of common to find. I only remember one place that rented 32X games, and like you didn't see a lot of like 3DO games for rent or anything like that,
Right.
No.
But some of those places would even rent PC games. I know the places that I worked rented PC games as well. Like I worked at a couple different video game stores when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, and we rented everything for any kind of console you could think of. I think we even had CDI games at one point.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah.
Really?
But it wasn't
Could you rent the adapter or like the 32X attachments ever or anything like that?
I am pretty sure you could.
That's cool.
Yep. I mean, you put down like a $300 deposit or something on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool. Renting games was awesome. I just remember that it was like Christmas every time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I really miss it. I mean, it wouldn't work in today's, the way video games are today, it wouldn't make any sense. But boy, there was that experience of, have a sleepover at my best friend's place on Friday night, and right after school, we're going to for us, it was called National Video. We're going to National Video to get whatever NES game we want, which would never be in. So then we settle for a second or third choice, but then go home and just play the hell out of it for 24 hours. It was great.
Yes,
that was
indeed. Awesome. Do you guys remember the first video game you ever rented?
I think Metroid.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Justice League Task Force.
Oh, okay.
Justice League Task Force, a little fighting game back in the day.
Was that a Genesis one, or was that?
I think that was Super Nintendo. I think that was a SNES game.
Okay.
But we had the type of store where people around it, like PlayStation was already out, Nintendo 64 was already out. We were doing Super Nintendo games. That's what my family had, and that's what that store had. But yeah, so I went through a ton of them, and I would trade games with the kid on my bus who had a Genesis. We would trade games constantly because we had the systems but no games.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah. First one I ever rented was Pinball on NES.
Oh really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why I remember that, but
I'm trying to remember. For me, it would have had to have been something closer to like 1988. I think is when I got my NES.
Yeah.
Probably like Zelda 2 or something.
Okay. Very nice. But yeah, I've obviously been playing that, and not too much else this week. I've just been playing some kind of older games. I'm still playing Dead Cells, because I mentioned a few weeks ago how I finished it on the Xbox, and I'm still trying to finish it on the Switch now, and haven't been able to do it yet. I'm still kind of working up and trying to get the proper combination of sub weapons and things to get through some of those later levels. But man, Dead Cells is so good. I really, really enjoy Dead Cells. And I mean, obviously I played this game plenty of times, but it just popped onto Game Pass. So I downloaded it on the old Xbox. But Katamari, the Katamari Damacy reroll, now available on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you should download Katamari because it is fantastic. And I am I'm just having a little fun just every now and again turning that on and going through a level. And that game is so weird.
Oh yeah.
But it's so wonderful. It's so good. It's such a fun little game. So
never really played them.
Really?
No.
Just not your bag? Or?
No, I've always been kind of interested, but just have never kind of gotten around to it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never finished them, but I always play like at least the first 3 or 4
Really?
stages. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I'm kind of shocked that you. I mean, I would figure you, CJ, would have gone through all of those.
No, I have not finished
Man,
a Katamari. No,
I mean,
I don't think.
you surely you've heard of kind of like the end game type stuff in the Katamari games, right?
Maybe. Don't
Well,
test my memory, right?
I'm gonna spoiler it
Go ahead.
because you start off very small and you're going through
Oh, yeah.
houses, picking up coins and puzzle pieces and things like that. And then as the game progresses, you start getting bigger and bigger, and you're picking up people, and then eventually you're picking up houses and cars, and then like last level you're picking up land masses,
Right.
and continents and things like that. So
Okay.
it's a fun sense of progression, just getting
I mean, I
exponentially
have
larger,
fun.
larger,
I have fun
larger.
with the game. I
Yeah.
just haven't.
I'm
finished
just
one yet.
saying, it's you download it, a level, they'll have like a 10 or 15-minute time limit max.
Yeah,
So you can just sit down and just play a stage, man.
I could. Maybe I
you don't
will.
have
If I
to
wanted to.
you don't have
Maybe
to
I will. I
you don't
have
to
it for
settle
Switch.
down. Well, there you go. Play it.
Yeah. Okay.
Play it, man.
All right.
It's a good wholesome game
Okay.
that you should be playing. But that's all I've been playing.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, I have been playing Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. I am now 30 plus hours into Skyward Sword. I am basically at the end of the game.
Awesome.
I am at the
Congratulations.
end game. It's a good Zelda game, guys. I mean, this is a really good Zelda game. And
I agree.
I think, I said it last week, like if you're looking for more dungeon type puzzle gameplay in a Zelda game, that's all Skyward Sword is. It's entirely, the entire game is puzzle after puzzle after puzzle. And I don't know if I really appreciated this playing it back on the Wii, but the way that they reuse areas in the game, there are 3 main areas in the game, and you kind of cycle back to them multiple times throughout. And the way that they change the gameplay each time you come back to them is really interesting. It makes every time you visit one of those same areas again feel new. And of course, I think I railed on the TAD notes section of the game back on the Wii. But playing it again, I got through the TAD notes section no problem. Like it was super quick. And
Phil hates Taz notes so much he left.
Apparently so. But it was fine. It didn't like when I played it on the Wii, I saw TAD notes and revisiting those areas over and over again as filler, instead of appreciating how some of those areas changed the second and third time that you visit them. And this time I noticed that stuff more, and it didn't feel so much like filler.
It was okay until you said third time, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Third time. Yes, third time.
Okay. All right.
It's like Zelda meets Dark Souls.
Exactly. It's the Taken
Now
King
you're
of
making sense,
Zeldas.
Greg.
Yeah, see, I
The
knew.
Taken King of Zeldas.
I knew.
There you go.
It's like
Yes.
Zelda's Taken King.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, but I appreciated the design in those more, and going through the levels, it's like this is probably why I remember some of these areas more than any other Zelda, is because basically I replayed these areas 3 times in Skyward Sword. So when
Does
I got
it feel
to
artificial?
it,
I cut you off. I'm sorry.
well, that's
See,
a
I
good
didn't
question.
feel like
Does
it did back
artificial?
then.
No, I don't think it does, except that it's sort of video game tropey in the way that, oh, okay, well, I'm going to teach you this song, but you have to collect 3 dingle hoppers for me first. Like, that is a pretty constant thing in this game. Like, oh, I've got the thing you want, but you have to go to 3 other places
It
Do this errand for me
edges
first.
uncomfortably close to a rare game.
Kind of, yeah.
It's not as bad, but it's
not as bad.
right there.
Not as bad. I mean, Zelda has always had those sort of trading game things and like multi-step things where you have to go back to areas, and it's been fine when it's side quests, but a lot of Skyward Sword is the game. Like, you are going to be going back and forth between areas. And there's still some design bits that I don't really get why they exist. Like, you're flying your loft wing into this thunderhead that's there, and there are all these tornadoes around. It's like, why do the tornadoes exist? You can't really, like, you can avoid them, but their entire existence seems to be just the gameplay element that you can avoid the tornadoes. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. Like, and there are a couple things like that where it's like, why is this way? I don't understand, but it's still a really great game. I'm having a lot of fun with it. The story's great. Cutscenes are great. The characters and the writing are all fantastic. Maybe the best in any Zelda game. Certainly, I think the writing in Skyward Sword is better than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, like the writing and cinematics.
There was writing in Breath of the Wild?
Exactly. It was one of Breath of the Wild's huge weaknesses. Was the writing and the cinematics.
It's just that person at the beginning of the game that was pointing behind them and just saying, like, go.
Yeah, go that way. No, I mean, but Skyward Sword has a great story and great cinematics and great music, and you can get through the beginning part of the game much quicker now and get to the good
how quickly
stuff.
for new players? See, like,
it's
new
more
players,
about you're not stopped every 5 steps by
exactly. You're not stopped every
P,
5 steps. Yeah. And I think Game Explain just did a video. You can get through Skyloft 300 times faster or something like that than the Wii game. So they did like a speed run sort of thing where they started the Wii game and then they went through, and you can get through it a lot faster. But I'm almost at the end of it. I'm in the final area, so I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun.
I did.
All right.
Speaking of Skyward Sword,
yeah,
I played a little Tetris 99 yesterday. Or no, I played it on
right.
Friday because they're doing a little. What do they call those things where they have a theme you can earn?
Theme days?
A theme you can earn.
Yeah, they have a name for it. They have some cute little.
It's like
branded
Maxima's
name.
Cup.
Oh, that's what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can get the Zelda Skyward Sword HD theme, which I got. So
that you can through Monday at midnight.
Yes. So
yes, indeed.
If you're listening to this when the podcast goes live, hope you got it.
Too bad for you.
Yeah.
You missed it. All right. Should we do some tweets?
Tweet-a-dee-dee-dee. A tweet-a-dee-dee-dee. Tweet. A tweet.
All righty. Let's do this one from Hacker Alias, Captain Logan.
Who?
Our
I know
friend,
him.
Captain Logan.
Okay.
A common conversation I hear about PS5 storage solution versus Xbox is how PS5 has the ability to slot in different capacities of cards. With the 1-year contract with Seagate ending in November for Xbox, do you expect different brands alongside different sizes for Xbox storage solutions? And a follow-up, the cost of storage is still very high across the market. What's your ideal price for these M.2 NVMe Gen 4 storage solutions? And it is
free.
2 terabytes at $400 worth the cost.
No.
I'm going to say no on that.
I don't know. I honestly have not been paying attention to the expanded storage options for either of these, just because even though this generation I decided to go all digital, I haven't run into.
You haven't
I've had to, I don't even want to say that I've had to clean the fridge because I've been sort of diligent in when I'm done with a game, I archive it. Because I don't tend to play games that I should say that I tend to play only a couple of games that I like continue to play. But for the most part, I play until I finish and then I archive it. I do like that PlayStation, and maybe Microsoft does this too, but I do like that with the PlayStation 5 they added in the option of cold storage.
Yeah.
for your games. If you don't want to basically delete the game and have to re-download it later, you can store it and transfer it. That's nice.
Mhm.
Certainly
But I
a
haven't
cheaper
felt
way
the need. Yeah, I haven't
to
felt
go
the
about it.
need to actually upgrade the internal memory on either of them, or the
Yeah,
expanded
I haven't
memory.
either. Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't either.
So I haven't really been paying attention.
I've awkwardly been brought into this conversation many times about memory because, well, for a lot of reasons. I love the idea that you can have a pack mule. That's very helpful. Just use an older hard drive, at least on Xbox, and just plug it up. You can transfer them. You can play the Xbox One version off of it, but if you want the faster speeds, you put it on internal. Love that. But to speak to the exclusivity question, that was a botched deal. Clearly that was made pre-pandemic somehow, some way, because it just didn't work out to where people needed it, and it's too expensive. Even though the memory does cost that, and it's a fair price for the memory quality, most console players don't want to spend that much amount of money. It's simple, it's plug and play, it's easy to transfer. For all the benefits of it, it's $200 for a terabyte, and that is just absurd. And I'm ecstatic that exclusivity thing's going away, because proprietary tech that is made by only one person, the Vita taught us it does not reduce in price at all. So I'm hoping we get competitors. Bring out those what was the memory cards on PlayStation 1 that was 16 colors, quadruple the memory, deleted your save every other time. Remember those?
That would be actually, the fact you're saying that would be my biggest worry about opening up the playing field, though, on the flip side. But I agree. And I mean, I don't know what you pay right now for like a 1 terabyte drive that isn't one of these. But I don't think it's that much. And I get why you're paying more, because of the fact that it's proprietary, but even for like the PlayStation 5, I don't think the price is that different right now. I think it's a tiny bit cheaper, but like, I get why, because it needs to be this like super fast drive, and the systems need that to work properly. But in the back of my mind, all I'm thinking is, my God, why am I paying so much for this amount of memory when it's so much cheaper? I know why, but it's still like my lizard brain doesn't want to accept that I'm paying that much for that much memory.
That memory chip will make an Xbox Series S turn into an X in both price and memory, and that's just nuts. And that's part of a problem. It's got to come down. It's got to come down.
Totally agree. I just saw that the Switch 1 terabyte SD card is like $150 on Amazon. Like, that's getting into the point where maybe I'd
it's a luxury impulse.
Yeah. All right, let's do this one from hacker alias Swedish Gojira, who says, do any of you guys have a Mr. FPGA, and what are your thoughts of it? I don't think any of us do.
I would love to have one, but it's another one of those things where I'm not I don't want to spend the money on
it's
it,
not
and
only
I don't want to
spending
spend
the money,
time on
it's
it.
the time, right?
Yeah,
because it's sort of a homebrew. Like, how do I like? You don't really like buy something out of the box, although I'm sure somebody does sell something out of the box. It'll just, you can dump ROMs onto, but
it sounds amazing.
It does.
They sound great. But the other thing that I've kind of learned about myself is, even though I play all these retro games on original hardware, and like I have a CRT, so I can play them like lag free for old music games, or like play light gun shooters and everything. Playing on original hardware is important to me, in that if I already own the hardware, and like that television, that CRT television I have was free. I didn't pay any money for it, so it was the only real cost was the work involved to get it in and put it somewhere, because of how heavy it is. So like, playing on original hardware, or as close to possible as original hardware, is important to me from a standpoint of, I own these things and I want to use them. But from a standpoint of, if emulation is the other option, I'm fine with emulation. I really don't care enough. And there are people that do, and that's great. And that's who the Mr. is for. But for me, I really don't care. Emulation is close enough. Otherwise, I'm not going to spend the time to make the Mr. work properly. especially with how frustrated anything technical makes me anyway. That that I can't, if I can fire up my RetroPie and load a ROM and go to town, if it's not perfect, I don't care. Not really.
All right.
I also do not know what much of this is.
Excellent. All right.
But it is important for some people, and it's
Absolutely.
great for those people.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's wrap it up with this one from Hacker Alias I finally watched, who says, "What's your favorite live action superhero movie?" And then he follows it up with animated ?
Well, if it's animated, is it live action?
Well, I think he's asking two questions there.
Oh, I understand.
What's your favorite live
Okay.
action, and then your favorite animated?
Get it.
So,
Favorite-
Luke,
favorite-
since you're our guest, you want to go first with this? You got to have an answer. This.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
I
He's
do.
getting ready.
I love most superhero movies of varying quality, but I really do love Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I realize that carries a different level of baggage for some people, but I thought it was beautiful, and it was the exact kind of movie I wanted to stream, not be at a theater for, because 4 hours is a long time. But I loved that live action movie. I'm answering the right question, right?
Yeah.
And animated is a very tough one because there are some fantastic animated superhero films. Dark Knight Returns parts 1 and 2 together is really good. They just did Long Halloween 1 and 2.
I have to watch that.
Have you watched the first one?
No,
Is that
I haven't
part
watched
one?
either.
I think you're in for a treat. It's not quite the comic book. I don't know if you're familiar with the comic book, but it's on the same level of quality. But they had enough twists and turns. They've been doing that with the DC animated universe they'll twist a little bit of it, so it's not quite the same story. The DC animated universe is great. It is almost always good to great. Almost. Well, sometimes it slips up, but I could go on about this for a very long time. And I'll recommend the new Justice League movie. I thought that was a really solid effort from James Gunn for a franchise that was middling. So I'm happy.
Okay.
Suicide
Squad?
Yes,
You
did
said
I not say
Justice
that?
League.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Suicide
Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad. Yeah. Sorry. And then Zack Snyder Justice League was my penultimate favorite. I love that one.
Okay. Phil or Greg? What do you
Well,
what do you
the
got?
best animated one is Spider-Verse, and it's not even close.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
I'd
good
go with
point.
that
Yeah,
too.
that's definitely up there. Yeah.
Spider-Verse is a legitimately excellent film.
Gets
by
better the
any-
more you watch it.
By any definition, and it actually
It really does.
Yeah, I recently watched it I think within the past week for probably the 50th time, and it is incredible, and yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
For live action though, man,
How
I
can you
don't
not
know.
go with Batman 89?
That was my answer.
And I'm not saying
Batman 89 is mine.
because
I'm not saying it's the best. There are better movies.
yeah,
but,
I mean, I
like-
like Batman. Well, first of all, I wouldn't go Batman 89 because Batman Returns is better than Batman 89.
I don't agree with that.
That's
Nope.
It
debatable.
absolutely-
Don't
it
agree
absolutely-
with
I know
that.
Phil speaks in
No.
absolutes, but that is debatable.
Yes,
But
it
anyway,
is.
Don't agree.
Yes, Batman Returns is better than Batman 89.
Nope.
It
But
ages well. Both those movies age very
yeah.
well.
Oh no, they're both great. They're both great. I still enjoy both of those.
let's find
very, very
common
much.
ground and say they're both better than any of the further Batman films from that series.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's silly.
There we go. We
That's
all agree
silly.
on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Boy, I don't know. And I talked about, I recently rewatched the whole MCU. We went through all that again.
Yeah.
And there's some
I think Guardians of the Galaxy is right up there
great
for me.
films.
It's just
Yeah.
a great movie. You don't
You
even
should-
have to know anything about the comics. You can enjoy that film.
You should watch the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really good.
It's
It captures that same spirit.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
it's a James Gunn. It's James
I like,
Gunn,
James Gunn is good.
It's,
but
it's
it's him-
basically an R-rated Guardians.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
him-
Galaxy.
Okay.
Same
okay.
vibe.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's got that same vibe, but yeah, he doesn't have Disney looking over his shoulder, kind of like, I want to keep it PG here. We will still want to sell some toys of the
Okay.
little raccoon
Yeah.
fella.
Well, I have HBO Max. I can watch
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know what I recently rewatched?
What's that?
Superman's 1 and 2 from the late 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Donner movies.
Those are good films.
Yeah. Well, the second one's kind of Donner.
Right. Well, there's the Donner cut. Did you watch
Donner
the
cut is
I did not like the
You know
Donner
what?
cut.
I've never watched the Donner cut, and I realized many years too late that I had the misprint of the Donner cut on DVD. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
When
yeah,
the whole
they
Superman
messed it
set
up,
came
yeah.
out, and the first run, the Donner cut DVD was actually wrong,
Yeah.
and you could send away to get a replacement.
That's right.
Yep. I do remember that.
I've only seen the Donner cut one time, and it's been a while. But the thing I wanted to note about those Superman movies that I was not ready for, there was a lot of innuendo in those movies that I did not catch. As well, obviously I didn't catch as a kid,
Right.
but even like 15 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, was not. I wasn't ready for that. I think because that Reeves Superman is so pure that it caught me off guard.
He was
Caught
so
me off
great as
guard.
Superman.
Yeah.
Yes, it
The
was.
thing I don't like about the Donner cut of Superman 2 is that the ending being the same, like going around the world rewinding
Yeah.
time
Right,
is
right.
a total cop out. Just seems like that's lame.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Otherwise-
I don't
Well, I'll
remember it.
say when I saw it
Otherwise
as a
it's
kid,
good.
I didn't think it was lame. I thought it
Yeah.
was pretty great,
Yeah.
but I mean that's pretty young. But
But yeah, it's hard.
so have you
hard-
picked a favorite live action yet, Phil?
Not. I don't know if I can.
Jesus,
I'm happy. Oh, what's yours then? Is it just
I
Batman?
already said Batman
Yours being
'89.
Batman 89.
You're doing the cop
No
out.
one's saying the Dark
Not a
Knight.
cop out.
Huh.
Like I said, the MCU, man, there are many far better films in the MCU
Right.
than Batman '89 or Batman Returns. If you're
Right.
talking about just quality movies,
Right.
but it just
I mean, Winter
my
Soldier's
heart
definitely up
belongs
there.
to Batman '89.
Winter Soldier's definitely up there.
Winter
You know,
Soldier.
one,
Yeah.
you know what one I really liked?
Very good
Again,
movie. What's
not
that?
a great movie, but
What's
I
that?
love it. Dick Tracy.
Okay.
When when that movie came out, I didn't like it. Like there was so much hype for Dick Tracy, and I saw it on
There
release
was.
day or whatever. It was hyped for it,
Yeah.
and I didn't think it was that good at the time. But then I rewatched it. I don't know, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I thought it was okay.
Huh.
It was fine.
Is Dick Tracy a superhero movie?
I don't think I've ever
Comic
seen
book
it.
movie. He's a superhero. Why not?
I mean, it's a comic book movie, but superhero.
Hey, shout out to the Rocketeer. I like
Oh,
that.
Rocketeer.
You know what?
Rocketeer.
I've never seen
Rocketeer.
Rocketeer.
That's a
is-
good
is
movie.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jennifer
they making
Connelly
another one of
in
those?
Rocketeer is pretty great.
Jennifer
Yeah.
Connelly in anything is pretty
Yes.
great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's it.
I'm seeing in the chat, Mr. Coffee, Mr. Radar, says Iron Man 1. It's perfect. Iron Man 1 is really good. It's again
Best
just- I
Iron
have-
Man movie.
It's it's certainly it's the best movie of the first phase of the MCU.
Yeah.
For sure. I was
Yeah.
surprised at how much I liked it and how well it held up on my recent
That movie made
rewatch.
Iron Man cool, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no. And I was surprised at how terrible Iron Man 2 was on a
I
recent
liked it.
rewatch.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, Iron Man 2 is pretty cool. And then I rewatched it recently, just going through them back to back, and I was like, oh man.
And you know
Iron
what?
Man 2 is very bad.
I had that exact same realization when I did a rewatch of the MCU with my daughter just before the final couple movies of that. Well, the first war or whatever. But then I had the exact opposite reaction to Iron Man 3 because when I saw Iron
Yes.
Man 3 in theaters, I really didn't like it.
Yeah.
Same.
And then on the rewatch, I was like, you know what? This is not a bad movie.
No, Iron Man 3, I liked it when I saw it in theaters, and then upon the recent rewatch, I was like, yeah, this is actually better than I remember it being.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah.
It's a very good movie. It's a weird movie,
Yep.
but it's a really good movie.
I think you feel that way because we got to see action-packed movies with Iron Man being amazing in them.
Right.
And the Iron Man 3 is more about Tony Stark. It's kind of like Dark Knight Rises in that respect.
You're
You know,
right.
it's-
You're absolutely right. And it was still so early on in the MCU that that wasn't what I was going to those movies
Right.
for. I was
Right.
going to those movies to see Iron Man fly around and just blow a lot of stuff up.
Mhm.
And like he almost doesn't do any of that until the very end of that movie.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what movie is not as bad as I thought it was going to be?
Hmm.
Waterworld.
I loved Waterworld.
I watched that for
What
the
a
first
fantastic
time last
mess
week,
of a movie.
and it is a mess of a movie, but
Oh,
it's
it's so
not
bad.
nearly as bad as I was
I
expecting.
don't think I've ever actually seen it.
It's
Really?
on
I've never seen
Hulu.
it start to finish.
It's on Hulu.
I popped in the DVD of Waterworld because I had the DVD of Waterworld
Okay.
last year. It was weird. It was in a jewel case too. It wasn't in like a DVD case. That's
Wow.
how old it is. Doesn't
Whoa.
work anymore. The disc doesn't work anymore. I was so
Uh,
bummed.
It's on
I
Hulu.
really enjoyed that movie. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
No,
but I
but
really
apparently
enjoyed
they're
it.
going to do a series, a Waterworld series,
really?
and I think that
What?
could be really interesting.
Didn't they make that movie based on the Virtual Boy game?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah. The
Okay.
game came first.
Yes.
Yeah.
The soon-to-be documentary is what Michael's saying in the chat.
Ah.
There you go.
All too
That's
true.
true.
That hurts.
All right, I think this is a good place to end it. What do you
Okay.
think? I
Hey,
think that's good.
real quick, because I know
Yeah.
I think you guys got this. You know, I spent this week doing a little building.
I'm waiting for mine
yeah.
to show up, and I can't wait.
Mine's showing
That's
up
Seinfeld?
Friday.
Boom,
Seinfeld, yeah.
Do the slap bass.
I'm looking forward to building that.
Yeah, I got
Boy, I
my-
can't wait for all the further hot takes saying the same thing over and over again. Seinfeld's apartment doesn't work architecturally. No shit.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
never did.
Who
It's a
cares?
television set.
You open the box of Legos, yada yada yada. It was all
Yeah,
there it
there.
Lego. They didn't. They just ran with it. It's built like the set.
It's
Bridge
awesome.
Club in the chat. Bridge Club, if you're talking about love for the Stallone Judge Dredd, absolutely.
No. The other
They're
one.
both
the other one's
good.
great. The
They're
other one's
both
great.
Yeah, the other
Oh
one's
yeah,
okay.
no, yeah. What?
No,
I-
I love the new one.
The new
Yeah.
Red is fantastic. Yeah.
It's Carl Urban.
What about
Carl
okay
Urban.
superhero movies? What about RoboCop?
Oh,
Yeah.
is that a superhero movie?
Is he not a superhero?
He's a
Like,
cop.
what is your
No.
your definition of superhero? Is
He's
Cybernetic law
He's
enforcement.
part man. He's
as most
part,
superheroes are,
He's part machine.
All
as some
cop.
other superheroes
He's all
are.
cop.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. No, that's not a. That's not a super.
It's
I
a
mean,
superhero movie.
it's an incredibly. RoboCop cannot be considered a superhero movie because then it makes what's the best superhero movie competition and discussion unfair because RoboCop is better
It's
than
just
just
the best
about any
one.
movie. Yeah.
That's you know what?
There you go.
Oof.
I don't agree with you on everything, but when you're right, you're right. So
Me, I'm always right.
Alrighty.
I wasn't going that far.
RoboCop's so good.
All right, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something you heard, you can direct that to @P1 Podcast on the Twitters.
Looking for me. RoboCop says that.
Or
Drop it.
you can visit our internet website at player1podcast.com. The funny thing is I'm going to cut out the last part of our discussion there, so the RoboCop quotes that you're doing will make absolutely no sense.
Why are you gonna cut
Dead
it
or
out?
alive, you're coming with me.
Oh, and on our website, you'll find contact information. You'll find Generation 16 episodes as they happen.
Yeah, the new episode's coming
One
along really
soon.
nicely.
And you will also find show notes and links to all the things we talked about during this episode. And aside from all that, you find a link to our Discord server where you can discuss this episode with us and our other listeners.
Stay out of trouble. If you would like to subscribe to Player One Podcast, you can do so by visiting player1podcast.com or by loading up your favorite podcast listening to a device. We're also on Stitcher Radio and Spotify. You can like us on Facebook. You want the video archives of our show on the youtubes.com/P1 Podcast. You can also watch us live most weeks on the YouTubes, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the Twitch.televisions. Typically, we record our live shows at 5:30 specific time on Sunday evenings. So join us, won't you? You can follow our Twitter account at P1 Podcast to find out when we're doing our next live show, but it's usually at this time. If you like what you've heard, and how could you, head over to patreon.com/P1podcast. Throw a few shekels our way. I gotta buy more Lego sets based on hit sitcoms, and only you and your funds can help.
Do you already have the Friends?
That's not it's
Central Park.
It's not true. We don't use
No, we
Patreon
don't.
money to buy me toys. Although, CJ, if you want to talk off air, we can maybe talk about that. You know what's I do have the Friends Central Perk set.
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode of Friends, but I bought it just because I wanted a little Lego coffee house.
Oh, right.
You know, I just wanted that. I also have the Lego Big Bang Theory set.
I have that.
Do you really? Wow.
And not only have I never seen an episode of Big Bang Theory, the clips that I have seen, I actively dislike. So, but again, that was just like I want a little Lego apartment to put.
You're weird, dude.
Why is
And
that?
I mean,
Legos
where does a
shows-
coffee shop fit in a Lego apartment?
Like, where did those
What?
things go when you build
The
them?
bottom floor. Is
If
what
you're
it's
not a
called.
fan of those things, why?
it.
Why?
Well,
Why
because
buy them?
I don't know if you've ever met Phil,
you have,
but if there's any toy that Phil even has a passing interest in,
have.
but you have
But
you have a
Lego.
little, but you
I
have a
don't know.
little, yeah, but yes, because it's Lego. You just
If they made a
Hey.
Jennifer Aniston Transformer, would you also?
guess what? I take that little Jennifer Aniston minifigure, boom, chuck it out the door. I don't need it, you know. But you know what? I got a little Lego coffee shop, and I can have Superman chilling out in there, and I can
don't
have
understand you.
Admiral Akbar chilling out, having a cuppa,
That's a
have-
trap. Mm-mm.
nice.
like
That's
he
good.
says in the movie. I gotcha. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's a fun little diorama environment for your Lego figures.
Sure.
You make cute little scenes.
I
You
don't
know?
understand. I don't understand.
What don't
that.
what part don't you understand?
Any of it?
It doesn't have to be a Friends themed coffee shop, you know? It's just at that point it's a coffee shop where the Incredible Hulk hangs out, you know? That's all. It's a toy, man. It's a toy.
Sorry, I asked.
You know what? I'm sorry
So
you
am I.
asked too. I'm sorry about a lot of things involved in this show. Lo these many years, let me tell you.
Oh,
But you know what? Your Patreon dollars, of course, help support our show, keep the lights on, keep us streaming each week. And if you are a Patreon friend of the $5 tier,
Your move, creep.
wow.
yes, I am a cop.
They'll fix you. They fix everything.
They fix everything.
I'm going to watch that movie tomorrow. That's it.
Yes. You have suffered an emotional shock. That movie's so good. You
Cheap.
gain access. Yes, cheap. Would Greg? Would you buy that for $5 a month?
I would buy it for $1, but I would happily buy it for $5.
Good. You gain access to a special bonus show. We record it right after this of us playing games, cracking wise, having fun, doing all the things we can't do on the regular show. CJ, do we have a game for this week?
We do.
Yeah, what is it?
It
You're
is
so
an
smart.
EGM review quiz
Oh,
from
okay.
August 1991.
If you like
1991.
Batman Returns is for you.
Absolutely. Batman Returns is so weird, man.
My God,
That's
this
why I
outro's
love
been
it.
going for half an hour.
You'll
Yeah,
see
so
plenty
you're-
of things in these reviews that you
Huh?
should never actually write
Good.
in a game
Good.
review. Yeah.
Good. If you want to hear what our little after shows sound like, CJ puts up some of our old ones from a couple years ago. Puts them up on our feed every Thursday night. So please enjoy, and if you like, please come join us via Patreon. And you know what? If you have a couple bucks left over, head over to patreon.com/generation16 to help support Greg Stewart's outstanding, and it is outstanding, web series about North America's favorite runner-up and subject of the hit new Picross S game, the Sega Genesis.
Thank you, Philip. And yes, if you are a supporter of the $5 variety,
Also cheap.
you get access to my weekly vlog called the Weekly Commute, which actually, Phil, I got to admit, today I did do while I was driving.
Dangerous.
But if you watch it, you'll see that I never take my eyes off the road. Where I talk about the development of the latest episode, how that's going, anything that any problems I'm trying to solve and how I'm solving them, research, interviews, other videos I'm working on. For example, I'm doing a let's read of the very first issue of a magazine I ever worked on.
Oh,
I
really?
wrote, halfway done the edit on that.
Nice.
That's coming as well. And anything else on my mind that I've been playing, what's going on in my game room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's totally worth it. And that is $5 per episode, not per month.
A bargain at twice the price.
Right?
Yes, indeed. CJ,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil.
Of course, Gregory.
Yo.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, Philip.
Of course. And a big ol' extra special super thanks to our supremely special guest, Luke, of the Xbox Expansion Pass. Tell the folks where they can find you, Luke.
Well, if you've liked what you've heard, and how could you? No, you can find the if you found the if you like the Xbox expansion. Let me just reset now. See, I made my joke and I was so proud of it, and then I just derailed. I was like, I did it.
That's the risk.
Oh goodness! If you guys enjoyed having me on, and you can find my work on the Xbox Expansion Pass on all your podcast services, including YouTube, where I just put up the static audio file where you can check it out. You can find me on Twitter at Insipid Ghost, and I think you will find that I have a lot of developer and industry interviews from indie games to actors to equality advocates. I think you'll absolutely find something there that maybe you're not finding in other places. I'm really proud of tomorrow's episode when that goes live. I interviewed the programs manager for the Games Online Harassment Hotline, and that was really interesting because their name is Jay Lynn, and they discussed their efforts in the past year of a pandemic, trying to be there to provide text and emotional support for not only gamers who are suffering from toxic environments and whatnot, but people within the industry.
Oh, wow.
And we really talked about, kind of went in depth at the types of people who message them. It's not just the people who are victims, but those who have been the aggressors in toxic environments, which is all that much more relevant. And it was enlightening and difficult, but it was a cool conversation. You'll also hear in different, the new president of Apogee Entertainment, actors Krizia Bios, the Blightbound developers, Hero Concepts Mayhem Brawler game is coming up. And then I did a cool show with the Player One team, which is going to be coming out very soon. I'm very excited for that.
You did. That was
right.
a lot of fun to record.
Lowered expectations.
So not all your guests are great.
They're every single one of
You
them.
miss every now and then,
For the
clearly.
most part, you have some pretty great guests, and then sometimes you got to kind of deal with the scrapings. I get you.
Yeah.
Real talk, that was some of the most fun I've had podcasting since I started XEP. That was so much fun. That was
You're
so much
sweet.
fun.
You're
So much fun.
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, thank you, Luke, for
Yes.
coming
Thank
and
you,
hanging out
Luke.
with us. It's always
Absolutely.
a
It was
treat
a pleasure.
to get a chat with you. And of course, a big old thank you to our wonderful, wonderful listeners, every single one of you. Please, as always, take care of yourself, take care of your family, your loved ones, your friends. Get the shots, wear the masks, do what you got to do. And we hope to see you next week. Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Da, na, 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 na.